Okay, so we're talking about buying like a pro. That is by using the right strategy, choosing the right location and the right property. So what's the difference between those people who buy property like a pro and the other sort of 95% of people who buy property? And to me, the difference is three little questions. What are you looking for? Where should you buy? And is it the right property? And to me, they equate to, for what are you looking for, that equates to having a clearly defined buying criteria. Where should you buy equates to doing the appropriate location, research and analysis. Is it the right property equates to your property search and due diligence. Now that sounds pretty simple, but most people don't ask themselves these questions. So in this talk tonight, we're actually going to have a look through each of those three questions and how to approach those questions like a pro. So number one, what are you looking for? And this is about setting buying criteria. So how do you set buying criteria? Well, firstly, it's all about simply asking yourself a set of questions, making a list of what it is that you're going to be looking for, and then prioritizing that list. So why would you bother doing that before you get out there? Well, most people jump on the net as their first stage of looking for property, and they start looking at, oh, look at this nice house, look at this apartment, look at these townhouses, look at this renovator, look at this already renovated property, and they're all over the shop. So by sitting down and actually asking yourself a few questions about what is it that you are looking for, it helps you to clarify the purpose of the property in the context of your goals and your strategy. And that makes your search process far more efficient. It makes you ask yourself the really hard questions about, well, what is my strategy for this property? What is it I'm looking for this property to do for me in my portfolio? And it makes you answer those questions, and that in turn will clarify your goal and it will make your search process more efficient. So what is the purpose of the property? Is it for cash flow, or is it to build equity? Are you looking at holding the property or selling it? Do you want to renovate, develop, strata title? Are you looking to build student accommodation? Answering this question of what the purpose of the property is helps you, firstly, to determine the correct structure in which to purchase, and obviously you need to consult a professional for that. It also helps you to identify what are the key qualities of the property that you're looking for. Next, what is the budget for the property? Now, the budget for the property will be one of the main factors that helps you to work out what you can actually be purchasing and where you can be looking. Because obviously there's no point looking in a suburb that has all the prices are up around the $900,000 mark if you've got a budget of $350,000, for example. So that budget will help you really define and narrow down locations. Also, you need to set some high and low parameters. So some people have a very fixed budget. They have $350,000, for example, and that's all they can spend. Other people have more money available to them, but for this particular purchase, this is the actual budget that we want to set for the property. Now, you may have a little more play in that budget, because if you have more money available to you than what you need to spend for this purchase, obviously you can stretch a little and have some high and low parameters. The other thing to think about is cash flow limits. If you're looking for a positive cash flow property, how positive does it need to be a positive cash flow property for you? So if you're looking for positive cash flow and it earns you, say, $1 a week, is that enough? I mean, if you want to retire on properties are earning you $1 a week, you're going to need quite a few of those. So you need to have a think about it. If your strategy for this particular purchase is you need a positive cash flow property, is it enough for it to be $1 a week? Are you really looking for neutrally geared? Or does it need to bring in $200 a week, for example? Now, there may be very different properties that you're looking for in that case. Same if you're going for a negatively geared property. How negative is acceptable to you? Obviously, you can only sustain a certain amount of negatively geared properties, so you need to think about what is an acceptable level of negative cash flow that you're willing to take on with this property. Also, if you're looking to do something like renovate or development, then you really need to look and do reversed feasibility testing. So, for example, just having a certain amount of money, if you're approved for, say, I don't know, $300,000 or $400,000 even for finance, and you go and buy a property and your sort of strategy is to develop, townhouses or something, and you spend your money on the $400,000 of the property, how are you going to fund the development? Likewise, if you're doing renovation, how are you going to fund the renovation? So you need to actually work backwards and have a think about what it is you need to do if you're going to renovate and develop, what are all the costings involved in that, and work your way backwards to work out what is the price you can actually spend on the purchase price of the property. Very important stuff. Now, what location characteristics or parameters are you looking for? This is another question that you need to ask yourself when you're setting your buying criteria. So your purpose, your cash flow and your budget parameters that you've talked about previously, all of those things will influence what location you can look at. But you might also decide to set some parameters around other things such as, say, population size or growth and trends. You might look at vacancy rates. For example, I might set a parameter that says we're not willing to look at any locations that have a current vacancy rate more than 3%. You will look at rental yields. So once again, you might be looking at, I only want places with rental yield of at least 5% and up. And you might discount a whole lot of suburbs based upon that. You might also be looking for growth drivers and growth stats. So for example, you might say, oh, I'm looking for houses that are within 2 kilometres of a major shopping centre, or within 2 kilometres of a train station, and things like that. So you might identify some of these things as part of your key criteria, and you will set that in your buying criteria. Now, when it comes to the actual property, there's also characteristics or parameters that you'll be looking for in a property. So some people are looking for houses, some are looking for units, apartments, some are looking for land or commercial properties. What is it that you are looking for? I know a lot of people prefer to buy houses over units or apartments. So if that's the case, then that forms part of your buying criteria. So then you would not need to be looking at the units and apartments because it's just a distraction for you if your buying criteria is that you're looking for a house. Bedrooms, number of bathrooms, car accommodation, swimming pool, sheds, indoor living areas, outdoor living areas, all of these things may form part of your criteria. Now, of course, it pays to look at, if you're looking at a particular area, what are the key demographics of that area, who lives in it, who's your target audience, and that should then be determining and influencing the buying criteria when it comes to the actual property characteristics. And the other things, where is this particular property in relation to services and infrastructure, such as sporting facilities, shops, hospitals, train stations, etc. So once you've got that buying criteria, what are you going to do with that? Well, you're writing down your statement of requirements. You write down your criteria, and it can just be a simple bullet point list, and then you can assign priorities to them. So you might have high, medium, low, or a must-have and a nice-to-have. Just remember though, if you have too many criteria, you may find yourself in a situation where very few properties are actually meeting those criteria. If you have too little criteria, then you'll find that you've got too many properties to consider and you're not narrowed down or focused enough. So that's our discussion today about buying criteria. In the next section, we're going to look at where should you buy, the location research and analysis that you should be doing.